Bebbington, and I was born on the 28th of January 1924, and on the 17th of July 1941 I had my call-up papers for the RAF, known as the WAAF, Women's Auxiliary Air Force, and I shot off to Bridgnorth for 2 weeks square bashing, and then after a selection committee I went off to Penarth to the accountancy school. I had 6 weeks there, learning how the RAF do accounts. And then I was shuffled off to Fazakerley in Liverpool, my first posting, Fazakerley being a balloon centre. Having stayed there for a couple of weeks, I then went off to Ringway, which is now Manchester Airport, and was then number 1 parachute training school, where the army sent all their boys. Every 2 weeks, a change of army boys would come through Ringway to learn how to. This was the very beginning of the parachute training, where men were shown how to jump through the hole with parachutes. And the planes they were jumping out of were Whitleys. They were the only plane that was used at that time, because it was right at the beginning of the parachute training. The Whitleys also towed gliders, and water jumps and balloon jumps would be done at Ringway. There would be international boys, Poles, Norwegians, English, Canadians, you name it. Anyone who wanted to be a paratrooper came through Ringway. That was the only training unit at that time. And there was AFEE, so called because it was Airborne Forces Experimental Unit. That was ongoing at the time. Occasionally there would be a Roman, what they called a Roman candle, where a paratrooper would jump through the hole and his chute didn't open. Ringway was mostly made up of WAAFs. The RAF was mostly made up of WAAFs who were parachute packers, and they were responsible for packing the chutes after they'd been used. The WAAFs would be very upset when there was a Roman candle, because they were responsible for the packing of the chutes. We knew there had been an incident because the wagon would come through the camp at that time, and there would be a blanket over the camp, over the Ringway. On one occasion, one of the pilots couldn't shake off a paratrooper who had got himself tangled round the back wheel of the plane. A Maxie Schonbach was the pilot, and he went round and round until he'd used all his fuel up, and without having shaken off the paratrooper, and he had to land with the boy on the back, with the soldier on the back of the plane, which was another sad incident. There were balloon jumps and water jumps. The water jumps were done at Tatton Park over the lake. This was the beginning, right at the beginning of the parachute training. They had a song which had many verses which they would sing in the NAFU. It's worth noting that at this time it was all very new and people were learning as they went along. The instructors were recruited, a good-looking bunch of lads who the civvies chased at the local dances. The civvies were people that weren't anything to do with the RAF, but they came to swell the numbers for the dances on a Friday. And of course they put on their dresses and everything and tarted themselves up. And we, the WAAF, were in our uniforms with our flat shoes and our grey lisle stockings and our passion killer panties which came down to our knees. This was all issue uniform. My job at that time in pay accounts was to look after the WAAF, which were 300 on the camp, and I would look after their wages, which they were paid every fortnight at a pay parade. There were different clerks that paid officers and NCOs, and they would come in and into the office and query their accounts. At that time also, having gone on parade at 8 in the morning, by which time we'd had breakfast, we did a fitness course of jiu-jitsu, and there was a sports area where we played hockey, and through this we would go to various other RAF units and compete with them. There was also a WAAF band organised where we played on the square for practice. Later on, I did a gas course, mustard gas, chlorine gas, with a group of about 12 other people, and we learned to decontaminate a plane, which was all very interesting. We had to go through all the motions of decontamination. But that was for mustard and chlorine and the various other war gases. I served all my time of the 5 years at Ringway doing the WAAF accounts. Occasionally I would do the airman's accounts, but mostly the WAAF accounts. A warrant officer came to the office in the early days, 1941-42, and he was quite important in the office, and he got one of the Polish pilots to give him a flip in a plane, and we all stood outside the office waving to him, and within 10 minutes or so they'd crashed on the airfield, and that was the end of him. That was pretty horrendous. In 1942 I was recommended for a commission and went before a selection board to London. I was selected, which gave me quite a boost, and I returned to Ringway at that time and was sent on 4 or 5 days leave. Again I returned 2 hours late, and the station commander took me off the selection board. He disqualified me. He wouldn't listen to me. And my excuse, or my reason for returning to camp later, later that year, or should I say in 1945, I met Roy Wood, who was to be my husband, and we married in 45 we married. And later that year, 46, I was demobbed and went into civilian life. After and during my demob time, other paratroop units had evolved, like Netheravon and Upper Hayford, and possibly more than that, where soldiers would go, and the soldiers you see dropping out of the sky over Arnhem and places like that had all been through Ringway. There was no need for Ringway to continue now with these other Netheravon and Upper Hayford being established. So the whole thing was disbanded, with possibly Manchester Airport in view. There is at Manchester Airport there is a memorial garden which was created to 6,000 Polish soldiers who came through Ringway as paratroopers or who qualified as paratroopers. And also at Tatton Park, there's a memorial there for men who had qualified going through Tatton Park. A lot of people don't know about this, but it's worth going and having a look.